What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and let's start off by hoping that you all had a great Christmas yesterday, and you're all looking forward to getting into the year of 2021, plus all of your pulls were blessed and you stayed safe. With that out of the way, I am going to be bringing you today an update or a brand new version of Shaddolls with Shaddoll Magistus. Now this is actually Shaddoll Magistus, not Shaddolls with 3 Magister cards in it. It's actually Shaddolls with Magistus, and they synergize incredibly well together. It does also give you the ability, should you want to, or should the format turn that way, to play cards like Shekanaga, Grista, and of course Anantelis as well, if you want to be going full on Shaddoll plays with this deck. So with that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. If you get this video up to at least 50 likes, I will bring you a test hand video for the deck to show you all of its glory and how it synergizes incredibly well together. I've split the deck out into the Shaddoll cards, the Magister cards, and then the utility cards. So sadly, in this format, it's very, very dangerous to go second if you can't stop your opponent's VFD or their, Macrocosmo or anything like that. So you need to be able to stop those, which is why we do play Forbidden Droplets, and it's why I've put it as the start of the thing. I will explain another alternative to this when we get to it as well. With that out of the way, let's get into today's profile, and we'll start off with the Shaddoll cards themselves, and kind of go from there. So you start off with Triple Squamata. Now the whole idea behind the Magistius is you don't actually ever want to normal summon or set any of your Shaddoll cards. All of your normal summons should be coming through the Magistius, because they are then going to utilize either bringing you a negate, so you can protect all of your fusion spells, all of your summons, all of your Nibiru protection from that point on, or they're going to be able to utilize Link 2s to help you climb higher, so that you save all of your fusion cards until you absolutely have to use them, and that's when the Shaddolls kick in and the Shaddoll engine can kind of take over from there. So you play Triple Squamata. This is probably your best one. It is a level 4, so that does provide more utility for the deck as well. Plus, its flip effect is very, very good, and its send effect is an additional Foolish Burial. You've then got Double Wendy. Again, I think this was probably like the best of the new cards we received. Apocalym was very, very close second, but this to me is probably one of the best. Incredibly powerful card. It allows you obviously to set another Shaddoll once it's set as well, which gives you more extension to your board. And in the past you were worried about Nibiru. Now with the Magister engine you set up the Omni Negate and you can pretty much go ham without even need to worry. Double Hedgehog. All quite straightforward. We've actually got very, very good spells and traps to be searching in the deck. More so the traps now over the spells. The spells are of course great, and they are your first port of call if you don't have a fusion spell. But then getting to the traps again gives you additional disruption during your opponent's turn. And then for the one-offs you've got the one Beast, the one Falco, the one Aerial, and then annoyingly the one Rare Dragon. Like, Konami, when are we getting a foil with this guy? Anyway, so Beast, of course, draw 2. You never want to open this. You very rarely ever want to add this to your hand. So that's what it's there for. Dragon is popping, back row, or bouncing a card. Aerial can be very, very good to deal with the graveyard. Very, very useful, especially if you can drop this during your opponent's turn. And the Falco, because we're using the Magister engine, Falco is actually even more important in this build, because you can utilize Halifabrax plays. And by utilizing the Halifabrax plays, it gives you a direct route going into Selene, which can then go into either Access Code or can go into a 2 Negate Appaloosa. So very, very powerful, very, very useful, and being able to bring this out obviously sets up your graveyard as well, for your Shadolls, for your Darks, and lets you play a little bit further forward. If you don't play the Magister engine, then you don't even need to worry about Falco as much, purely because its reset effect isn't as great as it once was. The game is actually a lot faster back now than it is then. We've then got a very small Trick Clown engine. It's a 41 card deck, so you can cut these out if you want to, but obviously the idea is you send this, you pay 1,000 life once it comes back, you send this, you banish this, you add this then becomes another special summon. It instigates your rank 4 plays, it instigates your level 8 synchro plays, it also instigates your earth, your light, fusion plays as well. And like I said, in this particular build you can actually utilize it even more to be using and abusing Shekanaga, Anantelis, and of course Grista as well. Then for the spells for the Shaddolls, Triple Shaddoll Fusion, Triple L Shaddoll Fusion, pretty straightforward and simple on this one. Now, obviously, this, in my opinion, is one of the strongest fusion cards in the game. The fact you can fuse from your deck, obviously, when it first came out, was revolutionary. Like, it was so good in the sense that we never really had a fusion spell that was quite like that. Now it's kind of like, it's kind of the norm for fusion spells to actually have that ability. But what this does actually instigate is, as long as your opponent has an extra deck monster, you can then special summon from the deck. Now, when you look at stuff, this is the issue, is when you look at stuff like VFD, when you look at stuff like the level 9 Synchro from Virtual Worlds, you need to be able to turn off the Virtual World to activate this successfully, otherwise everything you send is going to get null and voided. The other issue is, again, under VFD, you activate this, anything you send is null and voided. So there's not really a lot you can do with that kind of play style, which is why it's very important to try and turn off as many of the VFDs, as many of your opponent's boards as possible, and then be able to activate a card like this. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on your El Shaddoll fusion, set this card, pass it, and then try and do something during your opponent's turn. Then for the track cards, we've got double Rest Shaddoll Incarnation and the single Shaddoll Schism. Love this card. This card's so cool. Being able to pretty much fusion summon during the main phase using the graveyard is incredibly powerful. But on top of that, you get to pop a card or send a card. So this is what makes it important. Yes, okay, it can't attack, but it's fine because you're going to use whatever you summon out as fusion material later on to then add back your fusion spells and do your plays going further forward that way. However, you get to send one card with the same attribute as a fusion summon monster. So if you summon a light and your opponent has a light, you send it. If you summon a dark and your opponent has a dark, you send it. And that's ways of being able to fusion summon during your opponent's turn to then send a VFD or non-target to get rid of a card that's causing you an issue as long as you summon the same attribute. So that's it for the Shaddoll cards. Pretty straightforward and simple on that one. It does take the majority of the deck, which is why it's a Shaddoll deck, not a Magister Shaddoll deck. Moving on to the Magistus themselves, we've got triple Magistus of Vir, so Madame Vir. If it is normal summoned or special summoned, you get to activate one of these effects. You get to add a Magister spell or trap, or you get to return one of your banished level 4 or lower spellcasters to the graveyard. Now, obviously, you're going to be using the first effect more so because she can then search you out Magistus Invocation, which is basically a fusion spell which can help trigger off. So if you open up her with no other fusion spells, you're good to go. Otherwise, what she's going to search you out is the Trimagistus, because the Trimagistus then allows you to special summon a spellcaster from your hand, or you can send it to the graveyard and special summon all Magisters from your hand. So you can either board swarm that way, or you're going to board swarm just by doing her effect. Now, the idea again with this is her searching out Trimagistus. You then use Trimagistus effect, special summon down something like Schemata. You got rank 4. Special summon down anything else. You got Link 2 going into Cross Sheep. And then by using that effect, you get to go even further. And there is a very, very nice interaction with Cross Sheep that I'll explain to you once I get to the extra deck as well, because it utilizes this guy here, and this is Zoro, the Magistus of Flames. This card is so good. Like, I don't get why people, well, not people hate on it, but people just don't see the utility. And I get it, right? So if it is summoned, not on summon, but its effect, it is a tuner, you target one Magister monster, including itself, equipped with a Magister monster from your extra deck, so you get to equip it with Artemis. Artemis, once equipped, can use her effect to add you another Magister, so she can get you the Veer for the next turn, or 9 times out of 10, she is going to go and search you out the Crowler. The second effect of this is once it becomes equipped with a Magister monster from the extra deck, you special summon a spellcaster from your grave or hand. Now, I believe it does have to specifically be a level 4 one, which is absolutely fine because then that is where Schemata comes into play, or it special summons out the Veer. Now, it does negate the effects, which is a shame, but just from the normal summon on his self, being able to equip, he's been able to give you a Crowler in the hand, and Crowler is a discard or send one spellcaster monster from your hand or face out the field to the graveyard to special summon this card. So again, another extender. But he then also has the ability on his own, if you use Crowler, if you don't, but obviously on his own, can then make you a level 8 Savage. Now, obviously, you do need the Link monster, which will be your Artemis that goes to graveyard. So then Artemis will then equip to your Savage Dragon, giving you 1 negate. Meaning that from this point on, should you be using any of your fusion summons, should you be using any of your fusion spells, you're going to be able to Link climb higher, you're going to be able to protect them all. And this is where Cross Sheep comes in, is if you make Cross Sheep that points to Savage, when you fusion summon to Cross Sheep Zone, not only will you be allowed to revive a card from the graveyard, but all of your cards you currently control will gain 700, meaning that your Savage Dragon will be boosted up from a 35 base to a 42 base, and the fusion monster you bring back, whether it be a construct or anything else, will then go up from a 28 to a 35, which means that if you were to be playing against a VFD or anything like that, they can't just smash over it. Of course, Construct would nuke it on attack, but if they were to negate Construct and then try and attack it, you still go, fine, it's still got the boost because the boost came from Cross Sheep itself. So it's another nice little bit of utility. Crowley, of course, the whole idea behind this is you are going to just send a spellcaster, set up your graveyard, summon him down. Crowley is then what allows the deck to have the ability to play any of the extra deck monsters because Crowley can change his attribute. So obviously, coming off of Zoro can be the fire attribute in the graveyard in general for Grista. But the idea is that on the board, this can become an earth, a water, a wind, a fire, anything you want it to be, and that will then allow you to utilize Shekinah, Grista, and of course Anantelis. For the rest of the Magistus spells, we do play double Tri-Magistus and the single Magistus invocation. Now, the Tri-Magistus, again, the first time each Magister monster equipped with an equipped card would be destroyed by battle. It's not. Now, don't worry about that because you're only going to be playing one Magistus equipped. Keep in mind as well, Crowler can actually trigger in the graveyard to banish itself to equip the Artemis to any of your Magister monsters, which then means that Artemis can then search the next turn, and of course it will trigger off the Zoro effect again. So the Tri-Magistus is during your main phase, special on one level 4 spellcaster monster from your hand. You can send this face-up card to the grave, special on any number of Magister monsters with different names from your hand. Now, it'd be awesome if it was hand or grave, but that would then be a little bit busted. But the idea behind Tri-Magistus is you search it off of the Madam Veer, you then use its effect to special summon down a Schemata, special summon down a Zoro, anything like that. Zoro can then use his effect and you extend even further. The Magistus Invocation, again, you fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck, so it's generic in that way. But you use monsters from your hand or field as material, including a spellcast monster. If summoning a Magister fusion monster this way, you can also use monsters in your spell and trap card zone. Now again, it's rare you're going to be doing that. You can summon out this guy, which is really, really good, but you're going to be summoning him out a different way. The idea is this is just another searchable spell card, fusion spell that is going to be allowing you to get into your construct, your window, or anything like that. So that's it for the Magister cards as well. Again, it's a 10 card engine, very, very small. You can play the Mighty Master in it as well if you want to, and that will also help increase your consistency of your Selene, because then you play the Endymion Search spell, which then allows it to play Shark and Toad as well. Now for the utility cards, again, I know it's expensive, but Forbidden Droplet, the reason this is good is it won't trigger any of the Shaddoll cards, but what it will do is it will trigger Trick Clown should you open it, but it also sets up your graveyard for Zoro plays, because then Zoro can bring back any of the cards. So with a card like this, you're less worried about what you're sending. And the reason we're playing Droplet is purely on the fact that you need to be able to play through, like, the Shaddoll deck cannot play through a Vanities. It cannot play through double VFD. It cannot play through the level 9 Synchro from Virtual Worlds. It just can't do it because Macrocosmo kills the deck. VFD, no effects, kills the deck. Not being able to special summon kills the deck. You've got no monster you can normal summon, smash over Vanities. So the idea behind Droplets is you either set it and use it during your opponent's turn, or you're going to be able to use it during your turn to be able to weaken the Vanities to then smash over it with a normal summon or special summon more. Now the closest alternative to this is Dark Ruler No More for the Vanities matchup. But my personal opinion, what I would put in instead of these is I would be putting it in Chalices, Forbidden Chalices, or possibly XYZ Encore that I did in the top 10 side deck cards, purely because what you need to do, you need to have the ability to turn off as many cards on the field as possible. Now, the Virtual World is the worst matchup, like I said, because their weakest board is a VFD. You can turn it off, fine. But their strongest board is 2 VFDs plus the level 9 Synchro, and it's kind of like, unless you open up triple Chalice or this plus 3 discards, you're not going to be able to play the game. Now, this can utilize, like if you open up this, so this will be your 6th card. Let's say it's your 6th card. You've got 5 more cards to play with. You send this plus your 3 cards. You've got 2 more cards to play with. If one of those cards is a Shaddoll Fusion, you're good to go, because you turn off your opponent's tire board, you play Shaddoll Fusion, send it from the deck, leaves 1 card in hand. That 1 card you send can be Construct. Construct can then send 1 additional card, which could be Schemata. You can use Beast to draw. It actually lets you play a lot more, which is why Droplet is so important. The next closest to Droplet, again, I'll show you in a minute when we get to the traps. You've got the 1 Foolish Burial and the 1 Magicalized Fusion. Foolish Burial, again, send anything you want and then trigger, off you go. The Magicalized Fusion's in here is because we do play the Verti Anaconda. So not only can Verti Anaconda send Shaddoll Fusion, but it can send Magicalized Fusion. And by sending the Magicalized Fusion, playing through your Magister combo, you could actually put your the materials you need for this guy in the graveyard, along with the materials for a Winder, an Apocalypse, a Construct, anything like that. If you wanted to, as an additional boss monster as well, you can play Quintet, because Quintet, you're going to be able to pump your graveyard full of spellcasters already. So let's say you go first and you do your full-on combo. Your full-on combo will end your board guaranteed with the Magisters and Shaddolls with 5 spellcasters in the graveyard at least, and with different names. So as long as you're not worried about recycling all of them together, you can Magicalize Fusion, bring out a Quintet, and Quintet is just an insane boss monster that if you're backing that up with a Winder, maybe a Construct, a Cross Sheep, Appaloosa, Savage Dragon, anything like that. It's going to be incredibly powerful and hard for your opponent to deal with. And then, of course, we've got triple infinite impermanence. Again, if you don't have imperms, you can go with your Forbidden Chalices, Cosmic Cyclone, stuff like that. You really need to adapt the deck and build the deck towards what the current meta is. Now, when you look at like the end board of Virtual Worlds, and Nibiru will help you with that unless they make Gossip Shadow. So like if they kind of want to protect their stuff, they can actually make Gossip Shadow VFD plus the Synchro. And then it's a little bit easier to deal with during your turn, but it stops your Nibiru play outright. You've also got to look at Zodiac. If Zodiac are going to be playing Zeus is just going to keep sending all of your stuff. So you need to be able to turn off that Zeus to be able to play your play board further forward. So you need to find the best utility cards that you own if you're playing fully competitively as well, which is exactly what this deck is built to do. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll go through. Let's go through the fusions first. So for the Shaddolls, you've got the one El Shaddoll Apkaline, the one El Shaddoll Winder. I'm actually considering bumping Winder up to 2, and then you've got your 2 El Shaddoll Construct. Now, like I said, with this particular version, if you were more diehard Shaddoll and you wanted to play more Shaddoll cards themselves, you can put in a Grista, you can put in Apkaline, a Shekanaga, and you can put in an Anantelis. Anantelis is a little bit less relevant right now. It will slow down some decks, but not great. Grista's pretty cool, so is Shekanaga. Finishing off the fusions, as I mentioned, we've got the one Quintet. This is just an insane boss monster. 5 spellcasters with different names will give it its full effects. And it's just nuts, like absolutely nuts. You can bring this off of Verti Anaconda. Really, really good. And then we've got the one Iwas, the Magistus Spell Spirit. What makes this incredibly good is it's another form of disruption. So if you were to finish your board with like Schism, and your plan is to go into a Winder to trigger your Winder effect off and shut them down. So while this card is an equipped card, the equipped monster gains 1,000 attack. During the main phase, quick effect, you target one other face-up monster on the field. Equip this card you control to it. If this was equipped to an opponent's monster by this effect, you take control of the equipped monster and it cannot activate its effects. Only use the effect once per turn. So basically what you do is you steal one of your opponent's monsters, you give it an additional 1,000 attack, and you negate its effects. So then you've just got a very, very nice beta on your board, or a different attribute or fodder that can be used and abused. And then this becomes an equipped in the equipped zone, so if you do get into the invocation, you can use this to make another Magistus if you were to play a second version of it. Then for the XYZ and Synchro, we've got the one Abyss Dweller and the one Borrowed Savage. Now, obviously, Savage comes off of Zorro, gives you that Omni Negate. That means you can just make your plays without even needing to worry. And then the Abyss Dweller, in my opinion, is probably the best rank 4 right now, because if you drop this against Dinos, of course, Miscellaneous, bye-bye. If you drop this against Zodiac Orcust, not Zodiac Orcust, Zodiac Eldritch, you're turning off their trap effects in the graveyard. If you drop this against Virtual World, again, you're turning off the Nyam Nyam that can revive itself. You're then turning off the trap that can adapt its level and the spell that can get them a search. So very, very useful, very, very important. For the Link monsters, again, it really depends on your personal preference, but staples to me are Cross Sheep, of course, the one Artemis, because you will need it with the Magistus engine, and then the one Predaplant Verti Anaconda. To me, these are staples that you need to be playing. Less so Verti, if you don't have it, you don't need to like go mad to try and get it, but it does instigate so many plays for the deck that if you can get hold of it, I highly advise it. Then for the Crystal Halley Firebrax. Now again, the only reason Halley Firebrax is in here is that you would go Zorro, and rather than going into Savage or Abyss Dweller or anything like that, you decide to go into Halley Firebrax. Halley Firebrax will then summon from the deck Shaddoll Falco, because it's a level 2. You then use Falco as it is a spellcaster with your Halley Firebrax to make your Selene. Selene, as long as you've got 3 spells either on the field or in the graveyard, will then trigger to bring back a spellcaster. So it can bring back a Zorro, it can bring back a Crowler, it can bring back a Madame Veer. It can then also, if the Madame Veer hasn't used its effect, can use its effect and go from there. But then it also brings back your Shaddoll Falco. Then what you do from that point on is you use Selene plus whatever you've brought back and either go into an Appaloosa for your defensive plays or you go into an access code for your offensive plays. And by the time you've made this chain play going into access code, you're going to have at least a water and a water and a light in the graveyard, giving him 2 non-target pops plus 3k attack as well. So then that just gives you an additional boss monster. So the questionable cards in here that you could probably take out is, if you wanted to, you could take out the access code if you don't own one. You can also put in, you can take out the, I would honestly take out the Selene engine with the Halley Firebrax engine, because it's not as consistent. Like, you need to get the spells to grave to utilize this, and you're not going into any other Link free off of the back of Halley Firebrax. So Again, if you don't have them, you don't need to play them, but in this particular version, it's kind of what you want to go for on a direct route. The other cards that I looked at, like I said, was the Gristas, the Shekanagas, everything like that can be used and abused in this particular deck, and can just take you, you know, give the deck a different angle. If you want to go Shaddoll based, if you want to, like, if your plan is to focus that route, you have the ability to do that. And I think that's what's really cool about the synergy between the Magistus and the Shaddolls, is that the Magistus not only add attributes to the deck for the Shaddolls, but it also adds additional utilities in order to kind of use and abuse all the attributes. But like, what I mean by that is not so much like Fire, Dark and all that, but the ability of the Magistus to provide an Omni Negate, the ability of the Magistus to provide a Graveyard Negate, to utilize Cross Sheep a lot quicker, a lot easier. Like I said, you don't actually want to be using your normal summon on any of your Shaddolls, because 9 times out of 10, the way you'd work is you'd probably set a Shaddoll, send the Incarnation, the Incarnation is then going to flip it. So like, to me, like, you don't even need to worry about that. Like, you can do it a lot better now. You can do it by sending Falco. You can do it by sending anything else to then set cards, to then set up cards without even needing to normal summon or set, and then use the trap during your opponent's turn, during your turn, anything like that to add additional interruptions and additional forms of negate, basically, and just pretty much compete on the highest level with Shaddolls. Anyway, guys, that is it for the Shaddoll profile. I hope you liked it. I hope it's given you a couple of ideas on your own build as well. Like I said, this is the Magister version. I still think, in my opinion, that the Invoked version is that little bit better, purely because what they can produce is Macabre. But when you actually look at it, they're producing Macabre, they're producing Purgatrio. Whereas the Magister engine, although it's a little bit more consistent in the sense that there's more normal summons, but because it's a little bit more in the sense that it's a 10-card engine over a minimum of a 7-card engine, it actually gives you either Savage, which is not exact equivalent, but Savage is to the deck as Macabre is to the Invoked. The other interruption is it does utilize the Wind Magistus, and then the Aggressor, it gives you the ability to pretty much link climb higher. Whereas the Invoke can do that, just when you make your Macabre, you kind of want to stop there. So, yeah. I've had a lot of fun with it. I really, really enjoy it. It does utilise a lot of the engines. It does utilise a lot of the plays. And I think it's incredibly fun and powerful. Especially any deck that I can utilise a Quintet Magician in on a consistent basis, I'm all for. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like I said at the start, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. Getting this video to at least 50 likes will unlock a test hand video for this particular deck right in front of you. But for now, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling.